My name is Christine Machado, and I come from a background of banking, appraising, and operations.
My name is Jeremy Dugan. I'm a principal in the accounting group at Ares Management Corporation, which is a global alternative investment manager.
And I'm Chiki Bianco, and I'm a TV executive and manager for a variety of TV networks.
All right, great. And
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
as part of this competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity and assigning a fictional business identity to us. Please make sure that everyone knows who you are and who we are before you begin. You will have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend a solution that passes muster on all three counts. During this time, you will be uninterrupted. When you are finished, we will ask you questions for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. And during the Q&A, both you and us will stay in character. And then after the Q&A, we will give you feedback outside of the roles. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. You may begin.
Well, good morning. We are Koral Print. Could you please change the next slide? Thank you. I am Diego Blanco. I am the strategic consultant. Our ethical consultant is Natalie Serur. Our financial consultant is Barbara Zapata. And finally, Ana Otegui will be our legal specialist. We were asked to come up with a solution for a current problem that is happening today. We focused in Mexico. Our country is full of culture, nature, biodiversity, and sadly, we're harming it for more than one angle. We decided to focus on the biggest one, marine pollution. Did you know every year over 148,000 tons of plastic waste, such as plastic bags, chip bags, disposable utensils, and more are deposited into the Gulf of Mexico? This happens via 12 rivers. The most important one is the Ruiz River back in Nayarit that releases over 78,000 tons of plastic waste. The Panuco and Guayalejo rivers release over 27,000 tons of plastic waste. The Verde River in Oaxaca, the Coatzacoalcos River in Veracruz, the Suchate River in Chiapas, and the Colorado River in Baja California combined release over 30,000 tons of plastic waste. The rest of the plastic waste is released by human beings directly into the oceans.
Okay, so today we're addressing FEMSA, a big corporation that does Coca-Cola and all that stuff, a lot of plastic waste. And okay, so what is a coral reef? Coral reefs are a marine ecosystem made of corals and held together by carbon calcinate. They are very focused on a lot of things, but their main function is they are a habitat for marine species. Also, it is a breeding ground for them. And one that not a lot of people know, but they help change the current of the ocean. So they are a barrier between land and sea, preventing natural disasters. What is currently happening? So, coral reefs have been around for millions and millions of years, but in recent decades, their health and extent have started to decline due to a combination of natural factors and human activities. Some of the main ones are climate change, as we all know. This is very talked about subject right now, but it affects directly to the coral reefs because the temperatures in the ocean waters are rising, and this causes the corals to bleach, which means that they expel the symbiotic algae, which is their nutrient and what gives them their color. And with the passing of time, they die if they don't have this. There's also the pollution, as they already talked about. The pollution of water due to our industrial or personal waste is damaging a lot of our oceans. There are chemicals, pesticides, and fertilizers that shouldn't be there. So this is a major factor. There is also ocean acidification, which means that the pH in the ocean is lowering due to the extra absorption of carbon dioxide. This extra absorption causes the corals not being able to create and absorb their own calcium carbonate, which weakens their skeletons. So basically makes them very, very weak, and they cannot stand for long or take on the currents of the ocean. There's also unsustainable tourism. This is a big one. Mexico is a very tourist place, as you all know, especially our beaches. But it is unmanageable right now. So it puts a lot of stress in the oceans. And there's also things like diving and trampoline that are directly affecting our corals, and because it isn't supervised. There's also overfishing, which this practice, there are a lot of destructive practices over it, like cyanide fishing, which directly impacts our corals. And the coastal development, urbanization is a very big subject right now in Mexico, but the excavations and the sediment dumping and the water contamination, it's very strong as well, so there is not an ethical way to remove this without damaging our oceans. And yeah, so let's go to the next one. What would happen if we continue down this path? Well, there are a lot of things that can go wrong, a lot of consequences for our actions. One of them is the biodiversity loss. As I already mentioned, if coral reefs are habitats. So if we don't have the habitat, many marine species won't survive this. The rising in the CO2 levels. If we lose the corals, they absorb the carbon dioxide, so the climate change will escalate in pace, especially. The imbalance in the marine ecosystem, it is given due to the lack of habitat. And the loss of the fishing industry, a lot of communities are held together by their fishing practices. They sell it, they eat it. It's very important to maintain it. And if we don't have a way to pace ourselves, this isn't going to be possible. And lastly, the displacement of coastal communities, which will mean that all the coastal urbanization that is happening right now will have to be moved, because if we don't have this barrier against natural disasters, it can be very, very dangerous for things like tsunamis and stuff like this. So we'll have to move everyone away from this. There are currently some projects and initiatives going around in the world. So we have Reef Design Lab, which is Australian-based. They design and manufacture these artificial reefs structures implanted in the sea. There's also Coral Vita, who is USA-based. They are nurseries for corals, and after they are fully grown, transplant them into the ocean again. Then we have Oceanite, which they basically make these modular, sustainable reefs, very big reefs, and put it back in the ocean. And then there's Global Coral Reef Alliance, which basically are a lot of companies united to make this change. So we especially want to work with La Grande Recife Maya and help the Mayan community. One way we're going to make this happen, we want to give the ECAP, the Suma, and Uyamil communities a chance to be a part of this change and to override these destructive practices we already talked about. We want to give them a new job. So they will help us recollect the pet that we will later talk about in our solution, but we want to give them jobs to help us and help their own communities, so that this system is ingrained in them to start making a change and not just us coming in to swipe it away. Okay, for the sustainable development goals that we all know about and are global, we are focusing on two major ones. So it will be life below water, or marine life, and the responsible consumption and production. And this will be based on our solution. Now I'm going to give the word to Ana. So.
Okay, so based on the Mexican General Environmental Law and the Mexican General on Ecological Balance, the following criteria is the path for having a proper project with evitating unlawful acts. Okay, so what does the Mexican government do? Nowadays, Mexico has an extensive list of requirements for somebody who wants to produce on the land, on the territory. So the government asks that everyone who produces needs to know how to dispose properly their hazardous materials. Those who generate, reuse, or recycle hazardous materials, waste must manage it in the ways that the Mexican government and the Mexican Secretariat states. Okay, so then if there is an imminent peril on ecological matters, there will be a seizure of the area of the project and of the zone, and it will be eliminated temporarily or permanently. And continuing with the other side, what happens with the water bodies, there is an article that states specifically what will happen if anybody contaminates the water zones, because it's a sensible territory. Now we will go with our specialist, Barbara.
So I would love to talk about FEMSA. I'm going to talk about their ethical code, who are you, and the commitment to sustainability. FEMSA, as you already know, is a Mexican multinational company that operates in different sectors such as beverage, retail, pharmacies, restaurants, etc. FEMSA total revenues are $41.6 billion. Okay, now FEMSA commitment to sustainability. So sustainability is more than just a concept for FEMSA. It's a guiding principle. Their environmental initiatives are carefully aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and Coca-Cola FEMSA and Coca-Cola Proximity, these two are the leading charge in sustainability efforts. They prioritize in water management and recycling. Coca-Cola FEMSA collabs with Coca-Cola Proximity and Coca-Cola Fundación Coca-Cola for water access programs and youth recycling packaging. Yes, it's okay. FEMSA owns Oxxos, as you know, so they have some programs like tree planting at service stations for CO2 capture, and over 100 stations operate in wind energy. Also, I would like to talk about that Oxxo. It's really important in Mexico. So there is more than 20,000 shops in Mexico, 70 in Peru, 370 in Chile, and 231 in Colombia. And finally, 1,468 in Brazil. So other recycling achievements FEMSA has are the high percentage of recycling packaging, the use of uniform of recycled materials, and the sustainable disposal and distribution centers. So FEMSA corporate goal for 2030 are achieving 85% renewable electricity, have neutral water balance, and have zero waste to landfills. Their overall impact is positive environmental impacts and reduction of operational footprint. So now let's talk about your ethical code. For FEMSA, it's really important the honesty, the integrity, and the
Respect.
respect. Thank you. So this ethical code applies to executives, employees, and board members. So FEMSA has different projects all around the world. Some of them are the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, the circular economy, and the water security. Their overall impact demonstrates commitment to sustainability, corporate social responsibility, and ethical business conduct across global operations.
So we have talked about the problem, your part in the problem. Now let's talk about the solution we have come up with. Koral Print is a project, just an idea. We want to restore reefs using 3D printing technology and the recycling of the plastics. This will bring economic benefits, social benefits, and educational benefits to the local community. We will restore the marine ecosystems. We will also reduce the plastic pollution, and it will bring more biodiversity to the La Gran Arrecife Maya. That is the place that we will work with. This will make for the community to have easier access to research and education. And finally, it will bring more awareness to the topic in Mexico. This is a brief example of the production process of Koral Print. First, we will recollect the plastics from oceans, beaches, and utilize FEMSA current programs of recollection of the plastics. Then it will go through a process of selection of each plastic so we can decide which ones we will need for the new filaments. After that, it will need to go into a process of trituration so it can become pellets, and then we'll have to clean and discontaminate that plastic. After that, we'll feed it into an extruder setup that will make the new recycled filament. While all of this is happening, we will have a group of designers making and modeling the said corals. We will then 3D print them in said 3D printers, and when that is done, we'll have a quality control because we don't want to give a solution that is not proper for the problem. Then we'll have to add the non-toxins additive. This will prevent the plastic from disintegrating into the ocean. Then we'll have a group of marine biologists and scuba divers that will transport it and to the selected destination. And in the selected destination, they'll have to implant the fragments of natural corals. This will help the process of the structures that we will make to become a natural reef. And we will have a weekly checkup. But all of this process, we can't do it alone. We need your help and the help of the local community. We need a collaboration between the three of them. So a series of actions need to happen first so we can come up with this solution. On our part, Koral Print needs to plan for a local hiring program. We need to plan also the recollection of the plastics from the beaches and the oceans. Then we'll have to design and manufacture said 3D prints, and we'll need to collaborate with local authorities and environmental organizations. We need FEMSA, you guys, to give us financial support for the project. We'll need you to check for the viability, the financial viability of the project, and we'll need your network so you can promote it within it. And you will have to also collaborate with the local community. Finally, we need the local community to take advantage of this new opportunity. They need to take advantage of employment opportunities that we will bring to them. We need their feedback and support so we can continue to innovate and make changes to our current solutions. we need them to stay resilient and have a real commitment to the company, and finally participate in the collection and recollection from the beaches.
So how are we gonna make this happen? Well, we need, the initial investments are, we need 2 3D printers named Creality K1 Max. We're gonna need 5 of them, and the price are $53,495. Now for the Chunksy, we're gonna need a total of 3 of them. And also we're gonna need a software, Rhino, for the 3D coral modeling, and also software Cura. So the total will be $33,699 US.
Okay, so let's give a little bit of a summary on all of this with our business model. So our value proposition, the thing that makes us so different is we want to change the coral reefs that are right now. We want to help them continue growing, and we're going to use the thing that destroys the most, plastic. So this can be something beneficial instead of something that is harmful, like it is right now. Our key activities will be the recollection, which we'll do with the local communities, and the full process of shredding, everything that Diego already told you about, the shredding and the creation of our program, creating our corals and the replantation of them. Some key resources will be the PET and the PLA.
PLA.
Sorry. Our key partners, once again, it is worth mentioning, we have a lot of parts moving in this project. So we have FEMSA, which will need the financial support. We have the communities, we need their engagement, we need their commitment to helping us clean the oceans, the reefs. And our part, which will be the unification of it all, and the checkups and all that. The cost structure will be mainly in the recollection and the creation of the reef and the transportation. Our revenue streams will be with FEMSA, the campaigning, all the ads, very publicly stuff. This is where we get our revenue. And our customer relationships will be between us and the communities. At the end of the day, we're helping them and making it better for them. So there's that. Our customer segment is Mexico. At the end of the day, we want to start in Mexico. We know this model can be replicated in other areas, in other places. So we would love to start in the Arrecife Maya, but we'll continue on forward.
Adding a little bit of what Natalie, our ethical specialist, said in the summary, is that here in Koral Print, we believe that plastic is not the problem. It's the use we're giving it, right? So honestly, making plastic is really easy. It's like you can make now PLA from corn, and it takes it 2 years to disintegrate. So in comparison with PET, it takes 500 to 1,000 years. We want it to stay in the ocean, honestly, and the PLA is the part that is going to disintegrate, and it will make it porous, so it will have more chances of being successful. Okay?
Yeah, so the idea is to replant in these places that there is a PLA. We will replant corals, fully grown corals, so they can grow. So we are giving them the structure, the base, something a little bit less weak, sort of saying, which we already talked about because of the ocean acidification. And we're giving them a real chance at staying put and thriving. So that's why we chose plastic.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
we're Koral Print.
All right, thank you very much. I will start off the Q&A by asking two questions. First, what is the Mayan connection?
Okay, so alongside the Gran Arrecife Maya is where the majority of the Mayan community lives and works there, and they have their whole culture there. So it is the strongest point because they are our population, the people that live in the coast, and yeah.
I'd like to add, most of the descendants from the Maya communities work in the tourism industry because they take advantage of their history and their culture. So that's why it's really important to consider them in the whole project.
Yeah, they are key components because if we can help them make these sustainable changes, they will teach it to the tourists, to the non
Yeah, for the
native,
local
yeah.
community and the tourists, right?
But what are, okay, so it's FEMSA
Yeah.
that
Yes.
is going to launch this, and are we employing the Mayan community, or how is the Mayan community connected
Yeah,
to the project?
like they will have a salary, right?
Mhm.
They're the people that will be recollecting the plastic from the beaches and the oceans. Includes they know better the zone than us, so they know which places are the most contaminated with plastics. So we will take advantage of their knowledge in which areas we need to clean first and take the plastic away from that.
Yeah, FEMSA will be giving us the financial aid most of all, but we want to work with the communities because we believe it's crucial for them to be in this process.
Okay, but FEMSA is going to run this company, this organization?
No, this is an idea between Koral Print and FEMSA. We want it to be honestly more like a campaign.
A partnership.
A
A partnership, yes.
Ah,
A
okay.
collaboration.
So FEMSA's role is what in that
FEMSA's
partnership?
role, but FEMSA is one of the biggest, honestly, plastic waste dumpers organization out there. So we need them to be a little bit more conscious, and they already have a lot of PET and PLA that we need. So this partnership will be, they give us financial aid to recollect the plastics from the oceans that are already there. And the plastic that they already didn't use in their fabrics. And we will turn it around to the coral, and it will be like a partnership, a collaboration between the two.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit. FEMSA already has a recollection program. We also want to take advantage of that. But the plastic you can recycle in the bottle industry, there's a small percentage each time you recycle it that is not quality, the quality is not 100%, so they can't sell it. So they don't have a use for that plastic. We interviewed Antonio Arellano, that is a recycler back in Mexico City, one of the most important ones, inclusive his company works with a term called pepenadores, that it's the people that put they recollect the trash, the plastic from the trash, and take it to his fabric, sorry, to his fabric, and then he recycles it and he pays it by the kilo.
Right.
We don't want to pay the local community by the kilo. We want them to have a stable salary.
So they'll have a job working for the company.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they can make more doing that than they can coming in and collecting the
Yeah.
recycling.
And
Yes.
also the
dollars.
tourism in Mexico is seasonal. So a big part of the year they don't have a lot of work. So yeah, this will make them more stable financially.
Okay. And is FEMSA expected to get a return from this, or is this a do-good?
A green return, a more clean path for the future.
Okay. All right, that is my list of questions. Why don't you go?
Yeah, I have a couple. Thank you. One of my questions is, So I saw in your presentation that there's specific plastics that you want, and
Yes.
so what do you do with the plastic you don't want or you can't use?
Well, the PET and PLA are the current plastics that we have a use for them
Uh-huh.
in the submission and solution to our problem. The rest of the plastics, we can have them in storage because we won't dump them back, obviously, but we don't have a current use for them. But the 3D printed technology is advancing so fast, I'm sure that we can utilize them in a couple of months because
Okay.
you can 3D print in a lot of plastics. We just won't be using them right now at the moment.
And
Okay.
also, PET and PLA are the biggest plastic usage right now. So they are in the food containers, water, they are in everything. So it will be the majority of the plastics we can use.
Okay. Like, is this, I think you talked about solving the like, do you need all of the plastic that's out there? Is there?
Well, is not a question of like. Thank you for your question, but I don't think is that we need it. It's more of the solution that we want to take it out of the ocean and the beaches so we can clean them, and then we're gonna give it a post use to that plastic.
Got it, okay. And then my last one, is what, have you tested it? Has this been tested in other markets? Did I miss that in the presentation?
Not this idea exactly. There are similar things in the market. They are doing some structures with
It's in ceramic,
ceramics
Oh, okay.
and
concrete,
Concrete.
also. But
there are a lot of things like boats that sink.
mhm.
There are companies that focuses on making them, the whole boat, a coral reef. So there are some options, but honestly, there isn't one that doesn't pollute it in some way. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add a little bit to that question. Yes, there is current solutions like sinking boats or making another kind of reefs, but those materials honestly don't make it a little bit of good to the ocean, right? And for the 3D printed technology, PET, there's a lot of people in the internet that recycle their own bottles and make the new filament of PET. So we know it works. And we know if you combine it with the PET and the PLA, it also works. We just add the financial support from FEMSA to have a chemical engineer to help us find the best solution for the add non-toxins after use to the 3D print.
Okay. Thank you.
That was my question too, can you put PET in the ocean and not release
Oh.
microplastics?
Yeah, is that the thing? Is that the problem is the microplastic, right?
Mhm.
So we want to cover up if the add non-toxins will be added into the making of the filament or post it, is that we honestly don't know right now. That's why we want FEMSA to financially support us so we can get the best chemical engineers in Mexico and find a solution.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, very well laid out in terms of the engineering process of the solution and the different stakeholders involved. How will we know that there's success happening with the reef? So do we have a contract with a marine biologist or a research group that will assess after however many years that healthy reefs are in fact developing?
that's exactly right. We'll be doing weekly checkups. Our marine biologist and team will be doing the checkups, and the idea is to test it a year from now, 2 years, and see if it really does make a change long term. We truly believe it does because of the research that there is out there. But yeah, we'll need the final test. for sure.
We also interviewed a friend in common that currently works in Hawaii in this industry. So she talked to us about the whole process of that weekly checkup. They sometimes take little fragments of said corals to check up and how are they doing, and they also scuba dive into the ocean and like take a quick analysis of the corals.
And then, final other question for me. Just from a legal perspective, do we have to have any kind of agreement in place with the government or another organization
yes.
in order to?
The government needs to know if you. Sorry. Yes, the government needs to know if you're gonna put the project, in this case, in the ocean, and just like the checkups for the biology people, there would also be a checkup with the government, because if there is, if the water is getting poisoned or something of that matter, the project has to be removed.
And on the side of the Mayan communities and the people that will help us, it's like any other worker, there's a contract, so yeah, it is all very legal in that aspect.
So I had similar questions, so I won't repeat. But I kind of wonder, other than the incentive for FEMSA to be part of the sustainability, which ultimately probably is a good business approach for them too, right? They want a sustainable environment. But what other, I'm just throwing questions, what other incentives or what else could motivate a company like that to want to invest in this type of project, aside from the sustainability?
FEMSA is looking at a lot of lawsuits against their practices, non-green practices. So I think this will help them with the customer base, in giving them this resource of being a green company. I think that will be one of them, like appeasing the public.
They also, their current program for the recollection of the plastics, as I mentioned before, you are not able to recycle a lot of times the same plastic because its quality lowers, right? So they don't have a use for that plastic right now. So we will be taking it away from them. And we didn't go to the facilities of FEMSA, but I don't know what they're doing to that plastic.
And there is also the publicity part, they're associated with a green company that is changing the oceans, and there will be this whole campaign. It's a lot of good publicity, good name for them. It will lessen the lawsuits they already have.
Okay.
And like Diego said, it really isn't that much of a leap for them to achieve this.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
questions.
you.
Yes, all right, wonderful. So first let's, nice job. Now we can relax, this is the feedback part, right? Okay, I'll go first on feedback. From a presentation perspective, I thought you were all very confident presenters. I appreciate no one's reading through cards or anything. It's very elevated level from the ones I've seen, so very nice. Okay, and this may be just a personal style thing for me, but I need to know in the first minute or so what you're doing. And so when you start with, and it was 10 full minutes before you started talking about FEMSA, and it was 15 minutes before you told me what you're doing. And so the problem is that for that 15 minutes, I'm sitting here going, okay, you're telling me about the ocean, you're telling me about the impact, you're telling me about all this stuff, and I'm holding it in my head because I need to connect it to your solution at some point. But I have to hold it all in my head to do it because you haven't told me what your solution is. Whereas if you tell me up front, this is what I'm going to do, here's who you are, this is what we're doing, you orient me, and now when I hear the environmental impact that I'm contributing to, I'm like, okay, I know now why you're telling me this. And when you're telling me about, like other people's solutions, I'm like immediately then able to compare it to the one that you're about to tell me about, in more detail. So I think it's a really good practice to tell someone what you're gonna tell them about upfront so that they can relax and listen with that context. So set the context. Here's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna tell you about this great 3D printing solution to make reefs to replace the ones that are being damaged. Now let me tell you about the damage to the reefs, the ecological damage your company is creating for us, whatever, and here's why it's a solution. So I think if you frame your story in that light, you're gonna have a much more powerful, and you're gonna keep us interested, because I'm like, I don't even know where to go. I don't even know what we're doing yet, for 15 full minutes out of 25, I didn't know what we were doing. And I know we've had the preview, but you don't know when you come into a board meeting who's got the preview. So that's my first piece of feedback. The second is that from an ethics perspective, I think it's really important to talk about connecting the environment damage to ethics and people, because I think that is part of the reason these big corporations are not addressing the issue, is that they don't see the connection. Okay, this ocean 25 years from now is going to be full of plastics. Why do I care? Why does the reef going away matter? So I think a better connection to how you started to go down that with the tourism, because I know that everybody in Mexico cares if tourism is impacted, right? Like if someone takes away the tourism dollar, there's, that's gonna have a massive economic impact. So I thought you started to go there, but I really think you've got to connect more to the human impact of the environment. And then, the only final thing is, from my perspective, this is if you prove concept, which I didn't see anything in your budget for proving the concept first, which seems like a really big hurdle, because putting PET in the ocean has me squirmy. That we're gonna have a microplastic, we're gonna make the problem worse. But assuming you can prove that, I don't know if FEMSA is your audience, because it's not a lot of money you're asking for, and it seems like this would be something that any company, a startup would do, because you've got a lot of complexity here with the Mayan connection and so you're employing an underserved community, which I would love to hear more about. You're doing this great thing where you're collecting stuff. I don't see a lot of financial benefit for FEMSA, and it's a different business model. So from their perspective, having to manage yet another line of business adds a bunch of complexity that they don't really have expertise in necessarily. So I get that, yes, it could be a green initiative and things like that, but I think that the real connection is just, like you said, with the unrecyclable materials. Do they have a market for that? But this is a standalone company, and I realize that the constraints of the project may have limited you from being able to do that, but it seems like it's a great startup for somebody who is, wanted to be a B Corp or something, and then you get money from a lot of, I think you'd have more funding sources too, which could give you longer sustainability as well. So those are just my comments.
Yeah, good feedback. Wow. Yeah, I thought you guys did a fabulous job presenting, so very good for that. You guys really knew your stuff. That was helpful. I agree. I was a little lost in the beginning exactly what we were doing. I did read it, even reading that ahead of time. But there was, I think, also connecting to the actual, you talked about in the beginning, I wrote down, how the pH levels going up and just kind of all of these things, but I didn't really hear what's being solved. Like, we didn't go back and say, is it making it better, or is the problem still there? So it sounds like taking the plastic out, but we're putting it back in. So I was a little bit concerned about, did it solve the pH? Did it solve the other things that we're concerned about? So that was just that. And then on the financial side, I saw what it cost to start up, but did I miss what it cost to employ the Mayans? Was that in there?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was only an initial investment in the equipment needed, not including the salaries of the team of the biologists.
Right. So there's
the
all of this
designers
stuff.
and the local community.
Yeah, so that's a little thing I was waiting to see. But otherwise, I really connected with your ethics and those portions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really great job. I think that this is a complicated, there's a complicated problem, and the solution to it has many moving parts. So I thought some of the strongest aspects of the presentation were where you were outlining kind of the flow chart of the technology from a high
Mhm.
level, and also the different stakeholders involved, like acknowledging that there's going to be definitely all these pieces in the mix. That includes also like actually quantifying the upfront costs, which I thought was great to see some numbers as the accountant in the room. And similarly, I would have a little more, just another slide or another very high level of like ongoing commitment costs. I think would have added a lot there as well. But I like that we got some numbers in. And then yeah, it also similarly just like an opening slide that shows the kind of overall summary of the path we're going to take here, because it just goes a very long way. So I think I got there, but that would be a nice way to start instead of just jumping straight into the content. But all the content was really high quality and well structured, and yeah, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for all your comments, because you hit all the ones I had. So
It's hard to
just
go
to say
last.
something.
Going last, yeah.
And so I come from a TV production background, so I guess what I'll add that hasn't been maybe said before. I thought the overall presentation, I speak Spanish too, and so I could tell, with the fabric is fabrica.
Fabrica,
So it's a factory
yes.
in
Factory,
English.
yes.
Factory in English. So I
I know what you meant.
But I know we figured it out, as I figured it out, and I know it's much harder with the second one, but I thought you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
De nada, de nada. I love the visuals, the visual of the coral reef. I thought that your slides were very, very dynamic, and I like that you kind of reminded us what we're talking about, kind of what they were saying before. If you put out those visuals of a coral reef, it's like, oh, okay, this is the main topic here, is to regenerate these areas. So I thought your visuals were very, very good. And other than that, I thought it was terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful.
Just a question. Tomorrow we have the 10-minute presentation. Does it have to be the 4 of us to one person?
My understanding is it does not have to be all 4 of you. In fact, that would be hard because it's only 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
most teams just usually put 1 or 2 people.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, they recommend that you don't use all of you, so
Yeah, because I think
it's
that
1
would-
to 2.
And from your feedback, you recommend us to put the solution first.
So,
Yes, what your whole
Yes.
point is of this presentation,
yeah.
your whole point at the beginning, so we know right away what you're trying to achieve.
yeah.
And like you're asking for funding. I didn't know about the funding part till way later. I just thought you were kind of presenting this idea, but then I didn't realize until later that you're asking for funding. I think you mentioned it. I
Yes.
do think you mentioned it in the beginning, actually. So I apologize for that part. You did, but I agree. There's maybe just an overall present.
Yeah, stronger beginning.
Yes.
Stronger.
Yes, stronger
Just
beginning.
to summarize what you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
Okay.
You want a coral reef, you want funding, you want this and that, just very, very brief, and then you can go into the background of everything, which I think was what we're all
Yeah.
saying.
And I would spend less time with all of that build up. Like I think most of us,
No.
most people understand how bad the
Yes.
environmental impact is. So I think you spent, a lot of time there that could have been on how does this work? How does this solution work? It's really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
the idea of 3D printing a reef is freaking awesome.
Yes.
And you should say that first and then say why, and then people will get it. Like, oh yeah, okay, there's these other solutions. This is why. Because I think people get the reef destruction part, but I didn't know there were those concrete ones. You had that picture. That was amazing.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, okay, what a great idea. If we could recycle PET bottle, wow,
Yes.
get there faster.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Assume we get the destruction part.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys.
No,
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right.